Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Working in Hockey Show. I'm your host, Nick Bowins, and you recognize today's guest as a host, a reporter, a broadcaster, not only for the NHL, but WWE as well. Jackie Redmond. Jackie, thanks for joining here today. How's your summer been so far?
It's been awesome. It's been short. I am technically on vacation right now though, so I'm pretty sure I'm not allowed to complain. So it's been good. Am I allowed to drink coffee while we do this? Is that cool?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay,
It's bright and
amazing.
early for those listening. We're doing this bright and early. You're on vacation, so coffee is encouraged. But Jackie, I mentioned your work not only within hockey, the WWE as well, which we'll get into, but I want to start with your role with the NHL on TNT. As a fan of the game, I think they do some of the best work in marketing and growing the game today. Talk to me a little bit about your role with TNT. Maybe take me through a game day and what you're up to there.
Yeah, TNT is the best. Like I go back sometimes and think about when I was a kid, like wanting to work in hockey, and it's like who knew it could be so fun, like being a broadcaster. So we are such a big family now. We've been together, I guess, 5 years. And I hope anyways, that it translates when we do games, that we all we really love each other, and we're really tight knit group. But a typical game day, is busy and hectic. We start with morning skate. We meet in the lobby. I'm usually late by their standards, but late is like I'm still 5 minutes before the meet time. But Edzo and Panger and all these guys, they'll say that I'm late, but I'm not late. Like if we say we're meeting at 9:30 and I show up at 9:28, like
You're
I'm
on
not
board?
late.
No?
So it's a serious debate in our group. But yeah, we meet in the lobby of a hotel, grab a coffee, head over to the rink, watch morning skate. We always watch it together. We're one of these groups that we kind of do everything together. So we sit in the stands together, watch the skate, talk about with our producer as well. Shout out to Brownie, Kevin Brown. Watch the morning skate. Talk about kind of some of the trends or themes going into the game that we want to make sure that we hit either on the pregame show, or during the actual game broadcast. And then obviously watch for line rushes, anyone that's not out there, that sort of thing. That's always really fun because it's also where we just shoot the shit and catch up and talk. And we're working, of course, very hard, but we're also, we're having fun. And then we go to the rooms, talk to the players. For me, that's like the most crucial part of my day is getting in the room, trying to get nuggets from players about the things that I want to talk about in the game. Always helps when they're saying the things that I am reporting are true. So the room is super important for me. So I peel off from the boys in there unless I'm with Panger because everyone gravitates towards Panger. So part of my strategy as a reporter when I'm on games with Panger is I just like stick with him and you end up talking to about 10 or 12 different people because people will always hang around to talk to Darren Pang, as I've learned, even when the room starts closing. So he's a great resource for me. So we talked to a bunch of the players, then we talked to the coaches. The coach interviews are huge as well. I find coaches to be the most insightful people to talk to. Love the players, but the coaches, like if you bring a coach a good question, oh my gosh, you can get like absolute gold. And some of it, like I don't even use, but I hang on to for later.
Absolutely.
So that's the start of the day, and probably for me is the most important part of my prep work is that morning skate and talking to people. Because like I said, like I'm popping in during the game and any conversation that I have in the morning where I can reference a conversation with a player, an equipment manager, a coach, just gives me credibility. And a lot of times what happens is I'll go in with like, I don't know, 5 or 6 different people that I want to talk to hit on certain stories or angles that I want to do. And the best is when I go in and someone says something that I wasn't even trying to cover. And then I go, oh my gosh, wait, what did you just say? I need to follow up on that. Let me try to put something together with that. So that's the first part of the day. Then we usually have a meeting with our producer. Then we go back to the hotel, usually get a bite to eat, and then we prep. So in the hotel, I'm kind of listening back to all the conversations I had. I record them all. Not everyone does this. I highly recommend for anyone that is a reporter or wants to be a reporter or is just starting out, record your conversations. Because if if you find yourself in a scenario where someone says like, I didn't say that, you misquoted me, you can always go back to your notes and make sure that you heard what you thought you heard. And sometimes you think someone says something and then you listen back to your recordings and you go, oh, this was actually better than I thought. Or, oh, I thought they said it this way, but they didn't actually say what I, in my brain, interpreted, which
Yeah,
is kind of a
sure.
wild experience when that happens. So then I listen back to everything, put my notes together, send my producer all of my ideas for the game, which for me, I usually send like 10 or 12 ideas, knowing that I'm probably only going to do like 3 of them, depending how the game goes. And then we go to the game, meet up in the green room, have our team meeting, scout out our positions, test our mics, our audio, all of that good stuff. And then the game starts and the game dictates kind of what we talk about and what we do. And it's the best part of my job because I'm on my toes the entire game. Yeah. And then after the game, if I'm with Panger, we usually go have a drink. And if I'm with Kenny and Edzo and Boosh, well, Boosh will have a drink with me. And the other guys will have a Diet Coke and we'll just kind of recap the game. So that was a very long-winded kind of like what our day is like. But yeah, it's a great time. We have so much fun together.
Yeah, that's amazing insight, and I always love the behind the scenes of that, and was able to meet Brownie at a playoff game this year, and just asking him about
He's the
some of the
best.
things that go into producing the game. Like you said, you pass along so many ideas. He's thinking about whose family member is sitting where in case they need to cut
Mm-hmm.
it up. Right, there's so many things that go into that us fans don't always think about. But I want to talk about the player relationships and the coach relationships that you
Sure.
touched on there, Jackie. I would assume now when you walk into an arena or a dressing room, most of the players, coaches, they know you, they trust you, they've been around you enough now. But coming into the game of hockey, how did you go about building the trust and camaraderie with some of the coaches and players and stuff? Because I'm sure that was nerve-wracking initially and is so important to your reporting and your storytelling.
Yeah, the first few live, like in reporting games I did, I was terrified for sure. Because I was like shy and didn't know how to approach people. But I think like really my relationship with coaches, GMs, players, all of it really, to be honest, started when I started broadcasting with NHL Network. And at that time, like I wasn't doing games, I was doing studio work. But I think maybe the lesson in this is that even before you start meeting the players, meeting the coaches and that sort of thing, if you're covering hockey in any capacity, whether it's a podcast, a TV show, radio, like all of the different mediums that we have, whatever it is that you're doing, social media, you know, you have to have the mindset that you're already building that relationship with them. So how am I presenting myself? How am I covering the game? What energy am I giving to hockey when I cover it? Because I think the second someone sees you for the first time, right? We're all human. We're making judgments. We're having first impressions. And I think I did a show called NHL Now for 7 years at NHL Network. It was a 2-hour, for anyone that doesn't know, it was a 2-hour hockey show. We covered all the biggest stories of the games. We did interviews, we did debate segments, opinion segments, analysis, highlight packs. I mean, it really was like a hockey variety show. And I think for me in my journey in terms of building the relationships, it all really started there, right? Long before I ever shook hands, with Paul Maurice or Bruce Boudreau or any of these guys, I was on NHL Network every day talking about the game. And I think that that's where my rapport started. And it's where I started to earn a little bit of credibility, maybe, with those people before I met them. And fortunately for me, when I got the job at TNT, and with NHL Network too, we always covered the playoffs. So I would be on site for that, and developed some relationships there. But I think, when I took the job at TNT, I had been doing NHL Now for, I think, 5 years. And so, I had half a decade of being on in arenas every single day, especially in coaches' offices. So when I started to show up, I think I already had somewhat of a trust. And then I think from there, it's just about being prepared and being respectful and showing up, doing the work and proving yourself over time with every conversation that you have, right? I don't think that I just was on NHL Network and they were like, oh, she's pretty good. Like, I'm just going to trust her with whatever. I think that it was that combined with, working with people like Darren Pang and Eddie Olchuk, who went out of their way when I started with them to introduce me to people, to give me the space, to be in those coaches' conversations. I'm not sure that reporters are always in them. And so they would bring me to those. And I thought that was very helpful. And then, just being brave and trusting that I knew what I was doing, and I knew that my questions and my thoughts were valid and good, and having the guts to ask them, even if sometimes I wasn't going to get either the answer I wanted or the reaction that I necessarily wanted. And I think just over time, with reps and reps and reps and coming back, I just think, I kind of just earned the respect, I guess, of, especially with the coaches, of just being prepared, even when they maybe disagreed with a thought that I had, which of course happens. I think it was just being prepared for those moments and trusting in the work and doing the work, and not thinking that like I knew everything, right? Like, I'm curious. I'm still curious. I've been doing TNT for 5 years, and I try to show up with the mindset that I'm trying to learn something. Not that I know everything, not that my opinion is right, or that I've got like, I figured out a power play, or I figured out this. It's just being curious. And I think that when you give off the energy that you're curious, I think they relax a little bit. They're like, okay, she's not here to try to get me in a gotcha moment. She really wants to know. She wants to understand more, whether it's about the way I'm coaching, or me as a player, or what I'm doing, or why this line mate works so well. And that curiosity is genuine. So I hope, anyways, that is what it is. I don't know. I would have to ask the people that I talk to. But I hope and I believe that that's really what it is.
I think that's great perspective, Jackie. Like you said, it's about being authentic and being genuine. But I love what you said about, everybody is watching. I mean, hockey is a
Yeah,
small world, right? Even
it
if you put
is.
something on your Instagram story today, I'm sure you get somebody and you're like, wait, they saw this, right? I get that all the time. Where it's like, these people are seeing this. They have, like you
You
said, and
forget sometimes, which is weird. Like, there's moments, especially when I was doing studio work, where like we would do an interview or something, and then like someone would bring it up to me, and I'd be like, oh yeah, like the show like goes out to people. Like, I forget that people watch this.
Yeah. It's again, it's a very small world, and I think that's a
Yeah,
great lesson in there, that put your stuff out there, and it will end up in front of the right eyeballs at some point as well. But I want to work back through your career here, Jackie, a little bit,
sure.
and talk about kind of how you first got started in the sports industry overall. And I want to take it back to, in particular, Gillette Drafted,
Yeah.
Canadian Next Sportscaster. Tell me about that experience, A, and B, if working in hockey were to bring it back, would you be a guest panelist, judge? How can we set
Oh my
this up?
gosh. I would love for Drafted to come back in some capacity. I thought it was an amazing show. I know ESPN had some version of it in the States. I don't know what it was called because I wasn't living in the US at that time. But I think they had something similar. But Gillette Drafted was, the best way I can describe it is, it was like American Idol for sports broadcasters. So when I was on, there was 5 seasons. Every season was slightly different. My season, we had a top 10. We had 3 judges. And every week or every episode, we would have a challenge, and someone would win the challenge. And then there would also be a bottom 3, and someone would be eliminated and told that they were not, in fact, going to be drafted. It feels like a lifetime ago, I guess, because it was. But I originally got on that show because I was auditioning for a different hockey show for like 6 months. I was so young. I had next to no experience, like a year and a half working in radio and community television and that sort of thing. And just like social media wasn't what it is now, but at the time it was just like Twitter was just starting to gain its legs. And I was utilizing that and making like web videos for a radio station's website. So I started auditioning for this hockey show, and I auditioned for it for like 6 months. There was a ton of people that auditioned for it. I got into the final 3 and I did not get it. And I thought my life was over. But it wasn't, because I got a call like a month later, and it was the casting agent for that show. And they said, listen, I know you didn't get that gig, but the producers of that hockey show think that you might have something. So they want to put you on this other show called Gillette Drafted. And I was like, well, because I knew the show. as a Canadian sports girl. And I was like, listen, I love hockey. I know hockey inside out, but like drafted, I have to know all sports. And I'm going to tell you right now, like, I don't know shit about soccer. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I was afraid. I was like, I don't know. Like, I might get exposed if I have to do something about soccer. Or, like at that time, like I knew football, but I wasn't super well versed in it. So I was a little bit nervous. Like hockey and baseball were my thing. But I said YOLO and I did it. And yeah, I guess the rest is history. But what an experience! It was insane. It was an insane experience.
It was such a cool show, and I think that is like peak Canadian reality TV, right? Next great sportscaster, even like
Oh my gosh.
blades crossing over figure skating and hockey, like those.
We got to bring it back. Like, I don't know, like, if any, like, sports network execs, suits, whatever, are watching this. Like, we need to bring back Drafted. It was
We
so
will.
great. Even, like, I'm biased because I won it, but I also watched it. And I enjoyed watching the seasons that I wasn't on and, like, rooting for these people who, like, have these dreams and are auditioning right in front of us and doing these challenges. I think right now in the age of social media, I think it would do really well. And I would like if it ever comes back, please let me be a part of it. Like I would love to just like host or be like a guest judge or something. Oh my God, it would be so fun.
I think it would absolutely today, and we'll focus on a hockey specific one if we ever get there. But I think that would be.
Yeah, that would be super cool.
But no, that's a very cool story, and obviously getting to win that is pretty cool as well. But
Yeah.
just to go even further back, Jackie, like how did you know, or when did you know that you first wanted to end up in sports? Was hockey the
Ooh.
particular avenue? Did you want to get into sports in general? Take me back to kind of the thoughts there when everybody's asking you, what do you want to do with your career?
Yeah, I think I have to go back to high school, honestly. Like I grew up playing a lot of sports. Like I played hockey, I played baseball, I played basketball, I tried soccer, I tried volleyball. So I was really athletic as a kid. I really enjoyed sports and I loved watching hockey. So I mean, people ask me all the time, when did you get into hockey? And I was like, I can't tell you. It's just always been there. Like it's just been a part of my life since I was a kid, ingrained in me my whole life. It's just been my environment forever. So for me, like hockey was always there. It was always a passion. But when I got to high school, I started, realizing through conversations and arguments with my classmates about the Maple Leafs and the Blue Jays, their reaction to me was always one of surprise. I like to think it's not quite that way now. But at the time, I used to have guys in school just be like, how do you know so much about the Maple Leafs? Like, you're a girl. And I just like kind of like noted the reactions all the time and started to think like maybe this is unique. Maybe like I'm good at this. It was kind of in high school everyone's awkward. You go through like your weird phases. And I never felt more comfortable than when I was talking about hockey or baseball. Like that's where my comfort zone was when those became the conversations either in class or outside of class. And so that's when I started to be like, maybe I should try to do something with this. And so I decided I wanted to take journalism and broadcast in school, media communications and all of that. So I applied for post-secondary and that was the goal. And when I applied, when I decided to take it in university, really my goal was just to work in hockey in any capacity. Like of course, the dream would be like on air, but I would have been a writer, a producer. I would have done marketing, PR. Like I just wanted to be around it. Just wanted to hang on to that feeling of like feeling like I belonged, like hanging on to that area of confidence. And so I just kind of chased that. I chased what made me feel good. And so that's kind of where that started. But I wasn't like 5 years old being like, I want to be a hockey reporter. Like it was really just, it was a passion that developed into a career path once I got a little bit older. But I think my dad is the reason that I'm really here, to be honest. Like we used to listen to post-game radio shows together where fans would call in after the Leafs game and ask questions. And, my dad would turn to me and talk to me about it. And as I got older, he would ask me my opinion. And I think, he didn't, I don't think he intentionally did this, but I think he just kind of instilled in me that like I could be a part of that conversation, that I did have a seat at that table. And I think that's where my confidence really started, was just through my relationship with my dad and talking about hockey and baseball with him and arguing about whether Tucker should really play with Sundin on the top line. And, that was a thing. That was a thing at one point. And so I just think that that's really, where it started, just really organic passion for the game and wanting to make that a part of my life, forever. So just really
I
just
think that's
hanging
a
on
great
to
answer
that.
because it's very relatable for people, right? You're passionate about the game,
Yeah.
you grow up around it, you kind of have that comfort and confidence with it, and I think that's important for people to hear that you can turn those passions and confidences into a career path as
Yeah.
well. We talk all the time, Jackie, about multi-sport athletes, right? And there's so much made of, oh my God, these guys and girls are specializing too young. They're just doing one sport. Wayne Gretzky played multiple sports. Austin Matthews played multiple sports. Jackie Redmond played multiple sports. When it comes to the media side of things, how much have you learned from your other endeavors, WWE, working with Sportsnet, The Score, you name it. How much of those shaped your hockey coverage today? Have you been able to learn and pick up things from all the different sports?
Yeah, I think so. And I think, before I was able to specialize in hockey, like when I first started, I was doing all sports, right? Like I was cutting highlight packs. Yeah. Like I wasn't on the air right away, despite winning that show. Like they actually put me in a highlight suite and were like, you're going to be a BA and you're going to put highlights together. Which was like the best thing that ever could have happened to me because I was forced to watch teams and
Yeah.
games that maybe
I
I
was going to
wouldn't
watch
have
these games anyway.
otherwise. Yeah. So it was really good for me. But I think before I was able to really get into hockey and have that be my sole area, I covered all sports and did the highlight desk. And I think, covering things like Canadian diving, international swimming, horse racing, doing those sorts of things. And I always tell people to like, when they're starting out, especially like say yes to any opportunity that you can logistically do. Because I gained confidence from being like, okay, I know nothing about diving except that like no splash is good. Like that was like what I knew about diving before I covered it. But going in and spending, 4 days covering an event and learning about diving and learning about all that, what it means and what these athletes' journeys are, and coming out of covering those events and being like, oh my gosh, like I did the work and I actually did it. Like, and I think I did a good job. Like, imagine how this would feel if this was something that I have a lot of knowledge and experience in. Like if I can do this for diving, then I definitely can do it for hockey. I like that's where I kind of was like, wait, if I can do that, I can definitely do this. Like I want to keep doing these hard things because the skills are the same. It's just the prep and the information changes from a broadcasting standpoint. So pre being just hockey specific, I think that stuff was super helpful in just helping me realize that the prep is what I do and the way that I prepare. That's what matters more than anything. So that was before. And then after, I think, doing WWE the last few years has given me a new appreciation for the art of an interview and sort of the end goal of an interview. And I think there's been times in hockey where I have, approached an interview with the mindset that like I want to create a pop moment. In wrestling, we have this term where like when the audience reacts in a big way to a moment or something happening in the ring or someone saying something in an interview, we call it a pop. They got a good pop, and so I kind of chase that in hockey now. I'm like, okay, what is that in this interview? Like I'm interviewing Alexander Ovechkin pre-game, right? Arrival interviews, my least favorite because the athlete is so focused on their
Yeah.
pre-game prep, and as they should be, but they're just not as loose in that moment. But it's like, okay, what is my goal with this Alex Ovechkin interview? What do I want to do? And then he comes over, wearing I can't remember what he was wearing during this interview that I'm referencing, but I think it was like a Michael Jordan related sweater. It like said something on the back. I can't remember. It's on my Instagram somewhere. And I was like, threw my questions out the window and I was like, what is this sweater? Like I need to know. And then of course that became like a thing on social with Bleacher and TNT and whatever. And I think that's, a credit to wrestling being like, what is how can I make the people watching pop? Whether that's like a fun moment, an emotional one. I kind of search for those moments that the viewer or the fan is going to cling to. And I think that is something from wrestling that I've brought over and I definitely use like in a big way at the Olympics. I really chased connection in those interviews. How can I connect with these players and what they're experiencing right now? And I think wrestling taught me that a little bit, that not everything has to be like the perfect question or the perfect report. It's like, how can you make people feel something? And so I definitely have taken that from WWE.
That's really interesting to hear. And I think it's, again, part of what makes your coverage, TNT, all the new age kind of marketing approach so good because it's not just, hey, what was happening on the power play there? I mean, the ways to be, again, genuine, authentic, get an interesting response out of the guys and girls who can be a little buttoned up, right? So
Hmm.
kudos to you there as well. But two
Thank
more to
you.
wrap things up here, Jackie. The first one, I always try to ask, what's the best piece of career advice that you can give anybody looking to get into reporting, broadcasting, media in general?
How long do you have? No. I listen, I don't like consider myself like an expert or anything like that, but I will say that I think advice is great. And I think that you should listen to advice from people that you admire and that have sort of the life or the career that you want. And I think that's different for every individual person. I think that what works for me might not work for you. What works for you might not work for the next person. I do think that we are all individuals, right? And different things work for different people. So I think it's the most important thing to figure out first is like, what do you want? What is the career that you want? And I think that, my two biggest things that I always tell people, the first is like authenticity. Like what is it that you actually care about? And what do who do you want to be? What lights you up? What excites you? What motivates you? And I think when you have the answers to those questions, things become easier because you just follow that. Follow what you actually give a shit about. And who you do you want to be fun? Do you want to be serious? Do you want to be an insider? Are you trying to be a reporter? Are you trying to write? Are you trying to, have fun interviews? Because I think the path changes based on what you want to do. But at the end of the day, if you're trying to be something that you're not, it's just never going to connect with people. So figure that out and be as loyal to that authenticity of who you are as you can, regardless of what people say, right? Like part of the reason that Paul Bissonnette is Paul Bissonnette is because he didn't get on TV and start trying to be like, well, he came out and he was him and it worked for him. And so, but Elliot Friedman, if he tried to be Paul Bissonnette, like that wouldn't, I love you, Elliot, but like that, they're two different lanes, right? And Elliot is great at being Elliot. So I think for me, when I started to really stop trying to be what I thought everyone expected me to be, is when I started to actually break through a little bit and figure out what makes me different and what works for me. And there's going to be some failure with that. And there's going to be pushback always. There always is when you stand for anything. But I do think that in the end, it is what sets you apart from everybody that's just trying to be what they think a broadcaster is. Just be you and showcase, what you care about. And I think that will never steer you wrong. And then the second thing is just having a growth mindset. I think the reason that I am sitting where I'm sitting is because I've always been curious and I've always wanted to get better. And I wasn't and still am not afraid of feedback. I think feedback is your best friend. I don't think you have to listen to constructive criticism from 50 different people, but I do think that if you are approaching your career with a motivation to grow and to learn and to get better, then I think you will inevitably get really, really good at whatever it is that you're trying to do. And, it sounds cliche because I'm essentially saying work hard, but I do believe that for me, that is the biggest thing and the best thing I ever did for myself was, ask like a first TV job I ever had as a quote unquote contest winner, which people gave me a lot of crap for. Like I was just like a lucky like cereal box like contest winner. I went to my boss at that time, Greg Sansoni, shout out to him, and I said like, can I do fake updates in the studio? Can I record myself doing fake updates? And he was like, you can book studio time, and if the studio isn't busy and they're willing to do it for you, then you can do it. And I used to go down there and I used to record fake updates that never saw the light of day. And then I would bring them to him and I would say, what do you think? And he would tell me all of the things that were awkward or weird or how it could be better. And I did that for the entire time that I cut highlights. So like 9 months. When I got my first AHL gig, I was only assigned 10 games. And every single game I would talk to Rob Corte, who is still at Sportsnet. And I would ask for feedback on those games. Jeff Girodat's producer now for Hockey Night in Canada was my producer then and would give me feedback about how I was doing that job. So I think and you know what? Like I would watch myself and be like, what do I think of what I'm watching? And like really try to be honest. It's hard to watch yourself. It's hard to read your own stuff. It's, watch yourself interact with an athlete and be like, oh God, why did I say that? That was so awkward. Like all of that stuff, it's data, it's information. And I think that if you're saying yes, you're staying true to yourself, even though it's risky, and then listening to feedback and trying to get better, then I think you will inevitably end up in a really, really good place. And just be okay with like, you're going to have some, especially if you're trying to like be on camera, like doing what I do, like just know like you're going to have some really weird, bad, like embarrassing moments. Like I once asked Matt Barcel the same question twice in a row. Twice in a row. He literally looked at me and was like, you just asked me that. And I was like, cool.
I did.
I'm like, I did that. That's a thing that I did. And I'm still here. So like shit happens and just be okay with it and just know that like it's just part of it. So I know that was a really long answer, but
No, I love it. I love it. I think that was great and a lot of different pieces of advice in there too. But I love
yeah.
be yourself, right? Like you said, we don't need any more duplicates in this world. We need more originals, and that's what
No.
helps people stand out. Again,
And like,
especially in today's day and age.
yeah. And I think like it doesn't mean that you can't watch someone like Kevin Bieksa. That's if you're trying to be an analyst, and be like, oh, I really like the way he does this. For sure. Take that. Take the strategies and the way the tools that people use to make their points or be on camera or whatever it is. Like you can still study other people without trying to be them. Be like, oh, I really like how he does that. I really like how she does that in her interviews.
Well
That's
said.
all great. To just have yourself at the core of it.
Yeah, I think that's a great way
Yeah,
to encapsulate it. Learn from others, but don't, like you said, you don't need to be somebody else. Your best bet is to
exactly.
be yourself. This has been awesome though, Jackie. I can't thank you enough for the time, the advice, the insight, the stories throughout. My last one,
Okay.
selfishly, talk to me about our Leafs. Where are we at for next year?
Oh, you know what? I react like that because it's like a muscle memory reaction. But I actually I'm like a little bit freaked out by like the level of hope that I have. Like I'm a bit like, ooh, like I don't like this feeling of being like, wait, I kind of like am excited. I'm excited to see what it looks like. I'm excited obviously to see um kind of like I'm excited to see what the power play looks like. I'm excited to see if anything changes with the roster between now and opening night. I think that, I mean, it's not hard to be better than they were last year, but I do think that every single area of that team that could like perform at its worst last year, like kind of was there. So I feel like we severely underperformed last year. So we are due to kind of be at least a little bit better this year. And I think Austin Matthews is motivated. I think that he's got something to prove. And I think, I don't know, there's just like a fire about him that I feel when I see him talk now and at the end of last season. these guys don't get there and then be like, people like to say like, oh, they're checked out, they don't care. Like, these guys are professional athletes. These are the most competitive people on the planet. Like, let me tell you, you think you're mad about the Leaf season last year? I promise you, no one's more mad than Austin Matthews. Like, that guy hated last year more than any of us. So I have hope, but it makes me uncomfortable because at least if I'm expecting it to be bad, then it's like, I'm good. But yeah, I'm excited. I am hesitantly excited.
Glad
Is
to
that a
hear that
word?
you're excited.
Hesitantly? What do
I'm
you
excited.
think?
I'm excited. I like some of the moves, and like you said, there really can't be any worse than last year. I think my biggest concern is just like the division, the conference is so competitive. Like, whose
Yeah.
spot at the table are we taking? You know, Florida's going to be back in the
That's a
mix.
great part of it.
That's what scares me a little bit, but I totally agree. I mean, these guys are going to have a fire under them. Matthews, Tavares, Nylander, none of them thrilled at all the way last year went, and I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm going to say
It's the best. That's what I was looking for. Cautiously optimistic.
cautiously optimistic.
Do you have a favorite? Do you have a favorite move that they made?
I mean, I think Bobrovsky just because, and I know the age concerns and everything, but I think
Mm-hmm.
anytime you can take a guy from, a division rival and a team that you're going to be battling again for a playoff spot against, I kind of like that move, right? Take their starting goalie away and see how they can do. Radish, I guess, would be similar, right?
Yep.
Take Tampa's top D. So those I feel best about, I think, because it kind of
Yeah.
helps us and hurts a rival.
Yeah, I think that's well said. And I think that both of those players specifically like addressed an area that the team really needed to address in like kind of arguably one of the best with two of the best options that were out there to address said issues. And just being around Bob too, I will say this, like I covered a lot of the Florida Panthers, right, over the last few years, and I got to know that team really well. And the one thing about Bobrovsky is that I'm not sure I've ever heard players talk about someone's work ethic the way those guys talked about Bob's work ethic. And I think that when you have someone that not only has that work ethic, but that has actually done the thing, that's actually won, there's no way that that doesn't bleed out into other areas of your room. Like these guys talked about Bob like he was like Yager, like he was like obsessive about his routine, his work ethic, what goes into doing what he does. So I do believe that not only is he a great acquisition for the reasons that you talked about and the fact that, he is Sergei Bobrovsky, like his resume speaks for itself, but also that like this isn't a guy who's like won and is going somewhere and is just like cushy. Like this guy gives, like he cares a lot about what he does and his work ethic apparently is like insane levels. So I think he's going to be fantastic. We'll see if they can compete, but preseason predictions too are always way off. Like teams that we think are going to be really good end up like falling off for some reason and vice versa. So we'll see, but I can't wait. I'm so pumped.
After this conversation, I might be a notch above cautiously optimistic, but that's I'll take it.
Listen, if Bob is even just slightly above average for him, like slightly above his own average, like I know people like to point to last year, but that team was just in such a weird space last year. Like he didn't have like the greatest team in front of him. So yeah, we'll see.
I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. I'm excited. I'm excited for hockey to be back. I'm excited to watch you and the crew at TNT. Jackie, thank you so much for the time here. This was great, and hope to see you at a rink soon.
Yeah, I hope so too. Hope to meet you in person. Thanks for having me. I think what you're doing is fantastic. It's such a great resource for people that want to get into hockey. So thank you for doing what you do. 25,000 is that's a big number. So congrats on that.
Thank you, Jackie. I appreciate it.
Yeah.